On this Sunday night, wildfires spread in Canada's north.
Flooding, it just ripped through parts of Kanawha County last night.
Israeli forces tonight are bombing Gaza City.
This weekend, the hardship and heartbreak across Texas continues. Searchers in Kerr County are still scouring through massive piles of debris.
So why does God allow suffering, right? I mean, he's an all-good God. We're going to go over some arguments against God, and while we're doing that, I'm going to answer the questions with some answers that I came up with. So, first argument. If God exists, then God is omnipotent, omniscient, and morally perfect. Yes. If God is omnipotent, he has the power to eliminate all evil. Yes. If God is omniscient, he knows when evil exists. Yes. If God is morally perfect, he has a desire to eliminate all evil. Yes. Evil exists. Yes. Therefore, if evil exists and God exists, either God doesn't have the power to eliminate the evil, God doesn't desire to eliminate the evil, or he doesn't exist. So some are basically arguing that if an all-powerful, all-loving God exists, why does evil exist? Therefore, they conclude that, well, either God doesn't exist or he can't stop the evil. So let's go over some of the Christian views. This is a comeback that gets thrown around a lot, but it's the truth. Evil exists because, you guessed it, free will exists. God did not make evil. Humans made evil. Let's take a look at Genesis, okay? Adam and Eve living perfect, happy. And then, in comes this little snake. Hey, you should eat this fruit. The whole world gets corrupted instantaneously as soon as they eat the fruit. For instance, after they eat the fruit, God tells them, now thou shalt surely die. And in fact, he told them that before they even eat the fruit. He said, don't eat this fruit or you will die. And they ate the fruit. So now you ask, well, why did he give them the free will to eat the fruit if he didn't want them to eat the fruit? And he knew that they would die because of the fruit. Because he didn't want robots. You ask, what do you mean by he didn't want robots? Robots are programmed to do only the things that you tell them to do, right? So, if they had a conscious mind, per se, but they were still programmed to only do the things that you told them to do, well, there's a fairly good chance that they wouldn't actually want to do the things that they were being forced to do. And this is going to sound a little crazy, but if you program them to love you, well, it's not genuine love because you are forcing them to love you, kind of like an abusive boyfriend, right? God didn't want that. He wanted us to freely choose him over the world and for our love for him to be genuine. God would never, ever force us to do anything good or evil, even if he doesn't agree with it. He's not going to force us to do something because he thinks we should or he thinks we shouldn't. I feel like a lot of people may struggle with this. God doesn't make us do anything. You say, then how does he know what we're going to do? Because God is outside of time. He sees everything, past, present, and future, at one quick glance. He knows the decisions you're going to make because he can already see what you did before you even do it. Kind of crazy to think about. And I don't have all the answers for that because, well, I'm not outside of time. And also, God does desire to destroy all evil, and he will, but in his time. His time is perfect time. His time is perfect timing because, again, he's outside of time. He knows when everything's going to happen and when everything should happen. But because he's outside of time, 4,000 years to us is only going to be like 2 days to him. So that's the answers I found for that argument. Let's go on to a philosophical argument by David Hume. God's power, we allow, is infinite. Whatever he wills is executed, but neither man nor any other animal is happy. Okay. Therefore, he does not want their happiness. In what respect, then, does his benevolence and mercy resemble the benevolence and mercy of man? The four main points of his argument is this: pain is a necessity. He's saying that both man and animal go through so much pain that is not actually necessary. He says creatures could have been motivated by simply a reduction of pleasure. Let's go and stop here and answer this question. Suffering builds character, perseverance, and hope. There's a verse that explains this very well. It is Romans 5:3-4. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. While we might not see it, suffering has greatly impacted who you are today. Some take that and they use it really good. Some take that and they start killing everybody. Is that God's fault? I don't think so. Hume's next argument is nature is stingy. He says animals and humans have been given only, get this, the bare minimum. The bare minimum of abilities and resources necessary for survival. This leaves them constantly struggling and vulnerable to misery if anything goes wrong, such as a disease or lack of food. I grew up outdoors, folks. Let me tell you, basically everything you just said right there is false. Now look, I'm not saying that anywhere in the world people don't struggle and animals don't struggle and they don't lack resources. But what I'm saying is this. Look at the biggest cities in the world: Beijing, Tokyo, New York, and there's a whole bunch more that I don't know how to pronounce, so I'll put them up on screen. But I don't look at that and say bare minimum. I don't look in these woods and say bare minimum. All these trees, vegetation, animals running through there, bare minimum. I don't. What I do look at it and say is, wow, look at all these resources that I have and all these people in these big cities have, and look at these tiny villages that don't have anything. Why are we, these well-established cities and places, not giving to them? You see what I mean? It's not nature being stingy. It's not God being stingy. It's people being stingy. People take all the resources for themselves, leaving them with nothing. See what I'm saying? So that's one point. But another point is this: animals are a great example of God's mercy and goodness. Whenever Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, they didn't just affect humans, they affected every living thing. God gave humans at that point all the animals of the world to eat. They didn't just eat fruit and stuff, they now ate animals. Animals ate animals. Before, the lion laid with the lamb, and now the lamb and lion were eating each other. Well, I guess only the lion was eating the lamb, but you get the point. But at that point, God didn't just let them be. He gave them the abilities and instincts and resources they needed to survive. Right? He didn't leave the lion to not feel hunger. I don't know if they felt hunger before the corruption, but I feel like hunger is a bad thing to feel, so I feel like they didn't. I don't know. But he gave them that hunger so that they knew to eat. He gave them fear so that they knew to run to survive. He gave them awareness to be aware of the stuff going on around them, right? He gave them all these instincts and abilities, such as smell, like very strong senses of smell, and all these things. And all these abilities allow them to hide from predators, be a predator, find shelter, find mates, because if they couldn't do that, then, well, we wouldn't have any animals, would we? You know, so it's all these abilities that he gave them. I wouldn't say that he doesn't give us enough. I think he gave us way more than enough. And Jesus himself says in Matthew 6:26, look at the birds of the air. Does the Father not provide for them? They do not sow or reap, yet they have food. Are you not much more valuable than them? How much more so will the Father provide for you? So, suffering and scarcity isn't from God, it's from people being stingy. It's not from nature being stingy, it's from people being stingy. Hope that makes sense. But to go in a little bit deeper on this point, it doesn't mean that God is incapable or doesn't want to. Look at heaven. He came down to die for us because he didn't want heaven without us, and heaven is a perfect place, right? So I feel like it's not for a lack of wanting us to not suffer. That's why he hasn't come back yet, because he wants every person to come to repentance, not for every person to suffer. But anyway, Hume's next argument: the world's poor design. He says, nature is subject to violent extremes such as severe temperatures, floods, and droughts, which cause immense suffering. Hume points out that even small improvements in the world's design could have significantly reduced the amount of suffering. This again goes back to Genesis. And I just got a little jumping spider on me. Please leave, buddy. Here, get on here. Alright, that's fine. Just don't get back on. What was I saying? Oh yeah, back in Genesis. Okay. I don't remember an account of any natural disaster that happened in the first 3 chapters of Genesis. Do you? Because I don't. The world was perfect before sin entered the world. Now the question is, okay, but why doesn't God stop it? Because whenever God stops it, there is no more time to repent. Whenever he stops all this disaster from happening, that's when the world's going to end and there's going to be no more ability to come to Christ. The world itself isn't going to be able to handle Christ coming back. Probably not my best answer that I could have given, but I didn't have any notes on that one, I'm not going to lie. So, his next argument: perpetual war. A central aspect of his observation is that the perpetual war that exists among living creatures, where life is a constant struggle driven by hunger, fear, and other painful necessities. He was right to call them necessities. I touched on this earlier, right? However, again, they weren't always necessities. Do you know why they became necessities, or do I need to say it again? I'll just put it on the screen. There you go. So we're going to leave David Hume's section and go on to the emotional problem of evil. So, beyond the logic, people ask, if God is so good, and he loves me so much, why are bad things happening to me? Why are bad things happening to the people around me? Why did my sister? Why did I? You know, there are a few reasons. Free will, which we have talked about a ton during this video. We're going to stray from that one for these next few answers. Building character, testing of love and faith, greater good, judgment, or simply the fact that it's not God, but another. So let's get into this. So first, right, let's talk about character building. I think I touched on this just a little bit a second ago. So again, that Romans 5:3-4 verse. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. So God can use suffering for good, right? He takes this bad that is already present in the world, twists it, does his thing, and gives it to us as good. Now you say, okay, but what about children? Kids who suffer. Innocent people. I know I said I was going to stray from that a minute ago, but That's the corruption of free will, the corrupt world that we live in. God didn't say, ha 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 ha, I'm going to kill this kid for fun. No. It was almost kind of hard for me to just say that in the character of God, because that is so not him. To think that he wants kids to die is insane. I'm not going to lie. That brings us to our next argument here, right? The greater good. While we may not see how or what good can come out of our suffering, or innocent people suffering, or children suffering, God does. He did not give a child cancer, but because they were born with cancer, he can use that for good. And you may say, how? How in the world can a child with cancer be used for good? Let's look at other people with cancer, okay? Even adults. If they see a happy-go-lucky child with cancer, you don't think that's going to give them hope? You don't think that's going to make them a little bit happier? But beyond that, we have just the average everyday struggles. And I think they help us realize our dependence on God, right? There's so many people who are with God and they're like, my life sucks. God sucks. I'm leaving. I'm leaving the faith. I don't want anything to do with them. They leave and they're like, wow, my life just got 25 million times worse. This is not because of God. And then they come back and they're like, sorry about that. Whatever. Because it's not God, it's the world that sucks. So we realize in that suffering our dependence for God, help us go closer to him. And this kind of goes off of what I was talking about earlier, but if we take a look at Paul and Job, they both suffered like crazy. And think about how many people they have helped over the years because they kept their faith up over the thousands of years they've been dead and why they were alive. Because people have read how they kept their faith, how they saw the good in each and every suffering. While it may not look good to us from the outside, it can help a lot of people. And also test our faith. Think about this. If we were in a perfect world, not one thing went wrong, it would be so easy to say I love God, but then not mean it. Because if nothing's going wrong, you don't have any reason to not say it, but what reason do you have to say it? Just because it's a perfect world and you get everything you want? Think about how much pride could grow in a world like that. So the trials test our faith, test our love, because if we go through them and we still have genuine faith and genuine love, then we must actually really love him, right? We must actually have a ton of faith in him. But if we fall away, well then, was it ever real love or genuine love? Another way that God can use suffering for very specific circumstances of judgment. Again, I'm not saying that every time something goes wrong in your life, it's God judging you, because it's probably not. Very specific. Take a look at the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Amalekites, the Israelites, all of them, right? God judged all of them, probably at least twice. I don't know that for a fact, but let's see. He sent the Israelites into exile a couple times. The Canaanites got completely wiped out because of the things they were doing by the Israelites. Babylon, first they sent the Israelites into exile, and then they got sent into exile. It's all these things, but think about the amount of evil they had done. Like, insane amount of evil that they had done. And you say, okay, but he killed the innocent in there too, right? It says he killed the children, he killed the wives, all these people who weren't actually doing anything. Well, I think when he says all, it's a broad term and it doesn't actually mean all. Because if he killed all the Canaanites, then how were there still Canaanites? If he killed all the Moabites and all the Amalekites, how were still Amalekites? The Moabites is beyond me, because there still was. So that's one thing. But another, think about this. There is a terrorist living in this house. Okay? This house over here with his kids and his wife, who have never done a singular thing wrong in their entire life. Then we got this entire city over here full of people who have never done anything wrong in their entire life. And the only way to get rid of this terrorist is to bomb his house. What are you going to do? Are you going to let him bomb the city, or are you going to bomb his house? Kill 3 innocent people or kill thousands of innocent people? That was the thing. If the Canaanites, Moabites, Israelites didn't get taken out, they were going to continue killing their children, killing the people around them, torturing people, all these things. But if they simply got reduced and realized, hey, we shouldn't be doing this no more. So I think that's one reason. But lastly, most of the time that you're going through something bad, it's not going to be God putting you through that. And when I say mostly, I really mean like all the time. But, and I don't get it. I don't get why people say it's God's fault. God is literally all good. But then on the other hand, we have literally the father of lies, or the father of evil in general. Why aren't we putting evil on the evil one and good on the good one? It doesn't make sense to me. And yes, God is going to deal with evil, but again, it's going to be at the end of the age when he comes back and sends all evil things to hell and all good things to heaven. And really, none of us are good. So when I say all good things, there ain't much, really anything that he's going to take with him. Unless we let the blood of Christ, who, by the way, came down because he loved us so much and hated the evil of the world that we lived in, got absolutely KO'd on a cross so that his blood could cover us and we could get into heaven because he loved us. So, you know, I hope I did a decent job of explaining some of this. I'm not the most educated person, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, I would love to hear you guys' opinions. I mean that, atheist opinions and Christian opinions, but keep it respectful. That goes for everybody. Okay, so yeah, let me know if there's a topic you want me to cover next, and yeah, guess I'll see you guys in the next one.